Hey everybody, and welcome to episode 2 of our Pacific Drive playthrough. So, at the end of our first episode, we had just finished repairing the car, we'd replaced a few parts, we'd built some inventory space, we've built a crafting mat in there. We've also got this nifty little thing called an ARC device, which appears to be some kind of in-game map that we can use whilst we're driving around. I imagine it will tell us where to go and have a few quests and things on there. It just makes it a bit easier to find things as we're going around, so that's going to be nice and easy to use, but it does also seem to have some other kind of functionality, which I'm not 100% sure what it is. It looks like we might have to fill it with something, or it might gather things. I'm not 100% sure, or it looks like we might have to charge it. I imagine our first drive that we've just selected on the world map will probably tell us all about it. One thing to be aware of is that I do start going through the logbook at the start of this episode and then very quickly decide to not do that, as I realise that there are lots of new entries and that we could spend hours sat here going through them, and I don't really want to waste too much time on this playthrough. We definitely don't want a playthrough that's going to go for thousands of episodes, because I'm sat there at the start of every episode for an hour going through every logbook entry, so we'll probably avoid doing that for the time being. But like I said in episode 1, I am happy to keep in some of the more important entries, and I will go back and check it every now and then in case we need to double check how to do something or how to use a certain thing. So yeah, just to be aware that we're probably not going to be checking it too much. One other thing, I did start recording this footage about 3 or 4 days after episode 1, so for the start of this episode I spend a few minutes just kind of going around the auto shop and getting my bearings on where different inventory spaces and storage spaces are, checking if I'd left any of the important crafting materials or any of the important items that we're going to need lying around, things like that. Just trying to get my bearings in the auto shop basically. I'm not sure if there's going to be some kind of permanent storage space for us to use. I'm assuming it'll want us to just store things in random places like the locker and the toolbox and things like that. But maybe we'll find out after this mission, or after a couple more missions. Maybe they'll give us a more permanent storage solution. Obviously, I'm assuming that with the amount of crafting materials I currently have after the intro tutorial level, we're probably going to have a fair few after several hours worth of playing. But we'll see what happens when we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. So I was correct. This does appear to be a in-game map whilst we're driving around. I like that we can set waypoints on there, and that we've got a legend to check what the different icons are. I'm assuming that exit road to the south is where we have to drive to get started on our first mission or our first quest. I also like some of the immersion that the game has for the car. So that I know that a lot of these functions have hotkeys as well, but I like that, you know, you can look at the keys to turn them in the ignition to get the car started, or you can look at the handbrake in order to put it into park or put it into drive. You know, you have to look at the windscreen wipers to turn them on, stuff like that. I kind of like that extra layer of immersion in these single-player games, especially when you're so focused on being in a car and driving. For me, it just makes the experience much better, and I think I'm going to enjoy that going forward. So, let's get the car started and get going on our first drive.
Okay, newbie. I'll keep this simple. Don't want to overwhelm that little brain of yours. You'll need a few things to rebuild the antenna at the garage. First on the list is plasma. The woods are littered with plasma generators. Look for a research trailer or a spark tower. That's those antenna things zapping you when you get too close. Both are always accompanied by plasma generators.
Okay, plasma generators it is. That shouldn't be too difficult to find. I'm guessing if it's plasma, it's going to have some kind of glowy blue greenish aspect to it. That shouldn't be very difficult to locate. And I'm glad that the indicator on the map when we were choosing where to do our first drive was more for immersion and less for actuality in terms of the length of time we were going to be driving for. It did worry me a little bit when it said that our first mission was 3 hours away. I was like, am I really going to have to drive for 3 hours? Like, it's going to be one heck of a long playthrough if it's going to take us this long to drive that far. Oh, right, okay. I certainly wasn't expecting it to be literally 100 meters up the road. Thanks, game. I'm guessing, seeing as though this is our first mission, it's still going to be a little bit holding our hands in terms of, like, finding things and explaining things to us. But, yeah, I found that really funny. It was like, oh, you need to make sure you keep an eye out for these things. Oh, look, there they are, directly in front of you. You literally can't miss them. And I'm glad I was right about the glowing blue part as well. It's plasma, it's always glowing and it's always blue. You can see it from a mile away in pretty much every game ever.
For the picking. Can't get at it with your hands, though. An impact hammer will do the trick. Find those materials by any means necessary. No one's coming back ever again, so go on and take what you need. Transports, homes, outposts, facilities, they've all been abandoned since the zone was decommissioned in 87. Most of those structures won't even be there the next time the instability scrambles the area. So loot to your heart's content. Just loot away.
Look at you, out in the zone all on your own. They grow up so fast, don't they? And Oppie, back at the helm. Been a long time, old gal. Didn't think we'd, talk again after that whole Sasquatch incident.
Yes, I was hoping to go another decade without hearing your voice again. What, did you finally talk Francis to death?
Hello to you too, Oppie. And no, I'm still here.
flavor. I bet you're dying to hear all about the remnants by now.
Oh, can you not? I'm a little busy trying to keep them alive.
I'll keep to the basics, I promise. They deserve to know what they're getting into.
Fine. I'm giving you 60 seconds.
That is not nearly enough time to get...
55 seconds and counting.
Okay. The remnants, in short, they're old objects that do all sorts of weird things. They bind themselves to people, and you're the latest victim. You and the car are inseparable now, so get acquainted. Once the remnant is bound to someone, they become gradually more obsessed with it. It takes over the victim's mind, until they go crazy and run off into the zone with it. No one has ever been able to resist its siren call. That fixation is probably worming its way into your brain as we speak. This is the first time we've ever got our hands on one. But we know all about the past remnants, and oh gosh, this one time it materialized as an old copper kettle, and the tea that came out of that thing, it was...
And now I'm splitting the transmissions going to your receiver. Anything critical to your immediate needs will broadcast directly and immediately to your radio and headset. Anything not mission critical will be on a low priority frequency. Those transmissions will be recorded and indexed for you to listen to at your leisure. And by low priority, I mean just about everything that comes out of Tobias's mouth.
Okay then. I guess that's how this game's going to work from now on. Anything that's mission critical or important to the story, they're going to say it to me straight away, and then any of the filler or flavor bits of audio, they're going to let me pick and choose whether or not I listen to it straight away or listen to it later. I do like that's a function they've put in. It's going to make it a lot easier for someone like me if I want to do some talking over certain parts, and then I don't have someone constantly piping into my ear every time I try and talk, and then having to stop and start every 2 seconds, so that'll be quite nice. But usually for stuff like that, I probably will just listen to it straight away. Obviously, as part of this being a playthrough, I do want to bring you as much of the story as possible, and not as much of me just chatting away about random things, so we'll probably play the majority of those as soon as we get them in. We'll probably just want to sit there and wait. It won't be like the logbook where we'll sit and go through it at the end or anything like that, so yeah, we'll probably play those straight away. And I like that we're learning a bit more about the origins of who we are. So we appear to be this kind of breacher, they're calling it. I'm guessing that's just a person who manages to breach their way into whatever this exclusion zone thing is. And then our car is something called a remnant. I'm looking forward to learning a bit more about what that means, considering he makes it sound very foreboding and a bit evil. If it's going to slowly drive us insane over time, maybe that's another aspect of the game is madness or insanity level. Maybe that's an extra thing that we're going to have to pay attention to in future. But I suppose we'll find out as we keep playing. So this is the impact hammer, a more heavy-duty gathering tool, a bit like the scrapper, but obviously to be used on the more durable things so that we can get to those juicy crafting components inside. You will have also noticed there that I completely forgot to use the scanner whilst we were looking at the broken keypad to that room, so we had no idea how to get in there. I tried to use the scrapper on it to break it down, but that clearly didn't work. So we'll have to try and remember that going forward, but we did remember to use it on the TV in that little garage up the road, so nice to know that my brain is being a bit selective on remembering certain things, but hopefully in future we'll be able to remember using it all the time. Also took me a while to realise that we have to craft those gears in order to make the impact hammer, so I didn't need to go off and break down that car or anything else. Could have just made the gear straight away, but completely forgot that you have to craft those things instead of gathering them. Although I do imagine that smaller components like gears and stuff like that, you will find them out and about in certain areas and on missions and stuff like that, but you can craft them as well, just in case you haven't been able to find any. So again, just another thing we're going to have to remember going forward. Ah, so these must be those towers she was talking about when she was explaining the plasma generators to us. Oh, we're definitely going to get away from that. Jesus. Okay, so it seems to be arcing electricity that's coming off of them. Probably don't want to get hit by that. I imagine it's going to do some damage. But let's go and get those plasma generators and grab those juicy crafting components.
Looks like you're near one of the old Gorilla radio stations. That ought to be prime pickings for antenna parts. I've loaded its approximate location to your map. Look for an antenna tower up on a hill somewhere.
Oh, shit. My. Where are our manners? Driver, we never introduced ourselves. Not really. Tobias Barlow, former Artem maintenance manager. Oh, and, here with me is Dr. Francis Cook.
I was a R&D scientist researching limb technology right here in the zone.
We live right in the mid-zone. Just a hop, skip, and a jump over another big old wall from where you're at. Oh, and that old bat over there? That's Dr. Ophelia Turner, former director of research and development herself. The mother of limb technology, the maven of electromagnetism.
That's enough.
Resident party pooper.
Dear Christ, I don't know what these things are, but they certainly don't look friendly. We're just going to keep our distance from them and keep on driving. Maybe if we're still in the car, they can't do anything to us. They have mentioned something earlier on in the playthrough that the car seemed to be the safe space. So yeah, we're just going to avoid whatever those flying things are. They don't look like they'll be friendly. Maybe if I get out of the car, it might attack me or gather me or abduct me. I don't even know. Let's just avoid them for now. The game hasn't told us anything specific about these, so I imagine it's something we just need to avoid. Maybe it's like a hazard or something, but they certainly don't look nice. Okay, so as we approach this garage on the right hand side, I think this would be a great point to end our second episode. We've been going for just over about 20 minutes, so I think this is a good point to stop. And then for episode 3, we'll pick up from where we left off and we'll get these radio tower components. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.